Hi, this is Michael Love. I'm the teaching fellow for data analysis for genomics. In this module, I'm going to explain how to install Bioconductor and find help within an R session. First of all, I'm assuming that you have the latest version of R and RStudio, which will have links on the website explaining how this can be done. But you can go to the websites of RStudio and R and check that the latest release, the version number, here I have 3.02, is the same as the version number at the beginning when you start RStudio. So installing Bioconductor is just these two lines of code, sourcing this R script and then typing the function bioclite, two parentheses. And this will take a while, but if you wait, this will install all of the core Bioconductor packages. If you need additional packages, the way to install these is to type these into bioclite, and if you have more than one that you want to install, you use this C function to concatenate the two. So here I'm installing GeneFilter and GenePlotter, which are two packages. You can see it, you wait for the packages to download, then they need to be installed, and the help is built and the vignettes are built, which I'll explain later in this. So then the packages are still waiting to be loaded. Now, if you need to use the packages, they're not loaded, they're just installed. And you need to then load the library using the library function if you want to use the functions in the packages. So if you need more information or you come across an error, it's a good idea to go to the Bioconductor website. So they have the Bioconductor install information. We'll link to these on the website, and this gives you lots of information if you're installing R on different systems, Windows or Mac or Linux. And on the main page, there's a lot of information. I want to particularly point out the mailing lists. And they have a Google search bar, which will search through all the mailing lists over the past more than a decade of people asking and getting help. So if you have a problem with the GenePlotter package, you can paste in the error you found, and then below most likely someone has encountered the similar problem to you before. So that's a good first place to look for help. In addition, all of the functions in R and in various packages you use do have built-in help. And the way to access that is to type a question mark and then the name of the function you're interested in. And then in RStudio on the right-hand side, a page like this will pop up, which gives you the name and the usage, and then tells you about the different arguments that the function has, and each argument is then explained in detail. And below it has the value. This describes what the function returns. If it has different options, the different kinds of values which can be returned. Finally, it has references and links to other functions which are similar, and at the very end, examples. So here's a similar function. You can click on the links in RStudio and it'll take you there, and you can just go back by clicking the back button at the top. Here's help for a different function, the median absolute deviation. It also has a number of arguments and details describing what the function does. It has a bit of math inside of the details, and it has links to other functions that are similar and some examples. If you're interested in running the examples, there's a function example, and you give then the function, and it'll go line by line running the code from the examples in your R session. So you can see the live printout of those. And if the function is a graphical function like the box plot, it'll tell you can click through each of the example plots in the help file, and as you click them in the RStudio, they'll pop up on the right side, and you can just hit return to see all of these different examples of plotting that are contained in the help function for the box plot function. So here I'm continuing to look through all of the plots. Finally, we have the guinea pig's tooth growth as a factor of ascorbic acid or orange juice. So this is really the first place you should look if you have questions about what a function does or what kind of inputs it can take. Other kinds of help other than functions do exist. So if you have objects in R, such as the number 6, these have classes. So here the class of the number 6 is a numeric. And you can type $numeric. This will give you actually the help for the function numeric. If you're interested in help for the class, you add -class on the end. You need then to use quotes. So quote numeric -class, end quote. And then you'll actually get the help file for the class. Sometimes the constructor function, like numeric, and the class will point to the same help page. So this is the case for the expression set class in the bioconductor package. So if you type $expression set, you get the help for both the class and the function expression set. And the function is called a constructor function because it generates the object expression set. And here I'm showing all of the arguments and the various methods, so functions which operate on objects of the type expression set. It gets a bit confusing, but basically this is a simplification because all of the information you need to know about expression sets lives in the same place. So whether you add the -class or just look up the function, you get to the same place. A quick way to find out what methods are available for a given class of objects is to use the methods function and specify which class you're interested in. So for the expression set class, or for the class LM, which are objects returned by the linear model function, you can see that there's a number of different functions, some of which are visible. Non-visible functions are then an asterisk is added, but here there's the plot and the print and the summary function for objects returned by LM. So another trick which is useful is if you don't know what functions exist in a package, you can type the name of the package and then 2 colons and then press the tab key, and in RStudio this will pop up a window which shows you all the names of the different functions in this package. And so it's a quick way to see what might be the interesting functions, and you can go follow up and type ? and see the help for those. So in addition to looking at the help, it's often interesting to look at the source code if you really want to know what's going on, and you can read source code, or source code as you get more advanced. It can be useful. And this is, instead of using the ? You just type the function name and press enter, so no parentheses. And most of the time you'll be able to see the actual code which the function uses to run. So this is the case for the MAD function. Sometimes it's not so simple. So if we type plotMA, we find out that it's a generic, which means that actually it depends on what object you call plotMA on, depending on what packages you've loaded. So here I can see that plotMA runs on a data frame type object. Then to actually get the source code, we use the getMethod function, specify the name of the function and the name of the class. And then you can finally get the actual source code, which is run if you call plotMA on a data frame. So here is the core line of code doing the plotting. So finally, the bioconductor packages are especially nice because they have vignettes associated with them. These are PDF documents or HTML documents which give example workflows. And if you want to know what vignettes exist for a package, you can type function vignette and package equals and then the name of the package. And then you can find out which ones exist. Once you know their names, you can type vignette and then the name of that vignette, and a PDF will pop up which gives a lot of information, example workflow for using this package. And at the end, it's always good to check to see what version of R and what version of the package was used to build this vignette. Another nice trick is that there's an HTML browser if you use the browse vignettes function and then name the package. This pops up a HTML interface where you have the PDF we just showed you, the source code of the RNW file, and in addition the R code itself. So this is pulling out the R code from the vignette so you can run each one individually.